Excuse me, sir, do you have an invitation?
My name is Dr. Martin Harris. I'm on the list.
Dr. Martin Harris?
Yes.
Do you have any identification?
No, I don't, but it's my wife over there by the buffet table. I have been missing for 4 days, so I need you to take me to her right now. The lady in the dark dress.
Okay. Excuse me, madam. Your husband is here.
Excuse me. Do I know you?
He wakes up in a foreign country after a crash. His wife says she has never seen him before. Another man is living his life, using his name, his face, and his past. And the more he tries to prove who he is, the more people try to kill him. Want to know why? Stay with me. Today, we're gonna recap the 2011 action thriller movie, Unknown. Dr. Martin Harris arrives in Berlin with his wife, Liz, for an important biotechnology summit where he is scheduled to meet Professor Bressler. After landing, they load their luggage into a taxi outside the airport. In the rush, Martin unknowingly leaves his briefcase behind on a luggage cart. As the taxi drives toward the city, they talk about their plans. Martin mentions his upcoming lunch with Bressler. They also discuss visiting an art exhibition over the weekend. Everything feels routine, like a normal professional trip. The taxi stops outside their luxury hotel. Liz steps out and heads inside to check in. Martin stays back to deal with the luggage. As he goes through the bags, he suddenly realizes one briefcase is missing. He checks again, then freezes. The briefcase is gone. Inside the hotel, Liz is already at the front desk arguing with staff. Their suite room is not ready, even though the booking was made weeks earlier. In the middle of the argument, she turns and sees Martin getting back into the taxi. His phone has no signal, so he cannot explain what is happening. Traffic is heavy, and time is slipping away. Martin urges the driver to avoid the gridlock and take any available shortcuts back to the airport. The driver agrees and turns onto narrower roads. The detour leads them onto a bridge over the Spree. Suddenly, another vehicle sideswipes the taxi. The impact sends the car crashing through the railing and plunging into the icy river below. The crash knocks Martin unconscious. Water floods the vehicle. The driver smashes a window, escapes, and pulls Martin out of the sinking car. Emergency responders arrive moments later and manage to restart Martin's heart on the riverbank. Before anyone can question her, the driver slips away. Martin remains unconscious. 4 days later, he wakes up in a hospital bed, disoriented and weak. A doctor explains that he has been in a coma since the accident. Martin immediately asks about his wife. The doctor tells him no one has come looking for him. He arrived without identification, and there was no way to know who he was. A nurse later confirms the same thing. No visitors, no inquiries. No one has asked about him at all. The hospital staff return the few belongings recovered from the crash. Martin slowly examines them. Among them is a small book that once belonged to his father. Inside the cover is a handwritten message from him. There are also several numbers written down, carefully arranged, though their meaning is unclear. Martin notices the Rolex watch and remembers Liz giving it to him during their honeymoon. The memory feels vivid and personal, even as everything else feels unstable. A television in the room plays a news report about the biotechnology conference taking place in Berlin. Martin recognizes it immediately. This is why he came. Despite the doctor's concerns about his condition, Martin insists on leaving the hospital. The doctor reluctantly agrees and gives him his contact information in case complications arise. With no answers and nowhere else to turn, Martin gets dressed and leaves. Martin goes straight back to the hotel. He walks up to the front desk and says he lost his room key and needs another one. The receptionist asks for identification. Martin has none. He then asks if she can escort him to the room so his wife can identify him. The staff hesitates but agrees to check. Before anything is resolved, Martin spots Liz walking through the lobby. He tries to reach her, but hotel security stops him. With no ID and no reservation under his name, he looks like a trespasser. Martin insists that his wife is inside the hotel and asks them to take him to her. Security escorts him across the lobby. When Liz turns and sees him, there is no relief on her face. She looks directly at him and says she does not know who he is. Martin tries to explain, but she remains calm and distant. She then introduces another man standing beside her as her husband, Dr. Martin Harris. The man confidently confirms it. Martin is pulled away by security. They show him hotel records and check-in footage. The video shows Liz checking in earlier that day. It also shows the other Martin Harris checking in later that afternoon. There is no record of Martin ever arriving at the hotel. Martin demands to contact the U.S. Embassy, but he is told it is Thanksgiving and the office is closed. With nowhere else to go, he asks to be taken back to the hospital. While riding in the taxi, he suddenly gets out halfway through the trip and walks away. As he wanders the streets, he looks through a restaurant window and sees Liz calmly eating, acting as if nothing is wrong. The sight only deepens his confusion. Martin tries to find a cheap hotel to stay in, but every place turns him away without a passport. With no options left, he calls his colleague, Rodney Cole, and tells him something is very wrong. After the call ends, Martin notices a car slowly following him. The tension builds as the vehicle stays close. Martin ducks into the subway to lose it. A man begins following him aggressively through the station. Just before the doors close, Martin jumps onto a train. The man is left behind on the platform. On the train, Martin sits down and starts writing. He reconstructs his schedule from memory, listing every meeting and appointment he remembers. At the next stop, he gets off and tears a page from a phone book. As he looks up, he freezes. Parked nearby is a taxi identical to the one from his crash. Realizing the driver may be the only person who can confirm his identity, Martin goes to the taxi company. He asks about the driver from the river accident. They tell him her name is Gina. She is an undocumented immigrant, which caused problems with insurance after the crash. One of her co-workers quietly helps Martin track her down. Martin finds Gina working at a diner. When he approaches her, she immediately tells him to leave. She wants nothing to do with him or the accident. Shaken but determined, Martin leaves. He then goes to his scheduled lunch meeting with Professor Bressler, hoping someone there will recognize him. When he arrives, his stomach drops. The other Martin is already there, confidently introducing himself as Dr. Martin Harris. Both men speak. They recite identical professional details.
I am Dr. Martin Harris.
There are two Martin Harrises.
We talked, you and I on the phone, and I told you about my father. We talked about your children. 2 girls, right?
Laurel, Lily, twins, 10 years old. Do you remember, Professor?
Don't you remember we spoke about how brave our wives were to
marry
marry scientists? All I wanted to do was go to the
L'École Polytechnique.
But she insisted, and that's how I first saw Leonardo's Vitruvian Man!
The conversation becomes tense. Then the impostor pulls out identification, a valid driver's license. He also shows a family photo of himself and Liz together. Overwhelmed and unable to process what he is seeing, Martin collapses. Martin regains consciousness in a hospital bed once again. He is weak and disoriented. A doctor explains that he collapsed earlier and apologizes for releasing him too soon. Martin tries to explain what is happening, but even saying it out loud sounds impossible. A nurse listens carefully as Martin describes how another man has taken his identity. Before leaving the room, she discreetly slips him a piece of paper with a phone number written on it. She tells him it belongs to a private investigator who might be able to help. The doctor prepares Martin for an MRI scan, hoping to understand the cause of his memory loss. As Martin lies inside the machine, the same man who chased him in the subway quietly enters the room. He moves toward Martin and attempts to abduct him. When the nurse tries to stop him, she is brutally killed. The attacker leaves briefly to hide the nurse's body. That moment gives Martin just enough time to break free from the restraints. Weak and unsteady, he slips out of the scanning room and moves through the hospital corridors while the man begins searching for him. Martin manages to get outside and hides inside a van. Once he is out of immediate danger, he calls Liz again. This time, the other Martin answers her phone. With nowhere else to go, Martin meets the private investigator from the nurse's note, Ernst Jürgen, a former Stasi agent. Martin tells him everything from the beginning. The crash, the coma, Liz denying him, the man who has taken his place. He explains that people are trying to kill him and that a nurse has already been murdered. Martin shows Jürgen the book from his father with the numbers written inside. He also shows him the schedule he reconstructed from memory. Martin believes the entire operation was planned months in advance, but he is convinced something was overlooked. Jürgen agrees to investigate. He takes the little money Martin has left and gives him a single instruction. Go back to the taxi driver. Martin finds Gina again. This time, he tells her the truth. He knows she fled the crash because she is an undocumented immigrant and afraid of the authorities. To prove how serious he is, he hands her his engraved Rolex watch, worth 5,000 euros, the only valuable thing he has left. He asks her to speak with Jürgen just once. He also asks if he can stay at her place because he has nowhere else to go. Reluctantly, Gina agrees. While Martin returns to her apartment, Jürgen begins digging. He contacts an associate at the airport and asks him to check travel records and surveillance footage. He also researches the biotechnology summit itself. That research leads him to Prince Shah of Saudi Arabia, the main sponsor of the event. Jürgen discovers the prince has survived multiple assassination attempts. He begins to suspect that Martin's stolen identity is tied to something much larger. Back at the apartment, Martin talks openly with Gina. She tells him she has been saving money to obtain legal papers so she can finally live freely. Their conversation is interrupted by a knock at the door. A friend from the taxi company arrives and drops off keys to a taxi Gina will be using. Martin heads to the bathroom. Moments later, there is another knock. This time, 2 armed men force their way inside. Gina is knocked unconscious as they search the apartment for Martin. Martin escapes through a window and climbs onto the roof. One of the attackers follows him. The other stays behind with Gina. Martin sneaks back inside. He confronts the attacker still in the apartment. During the struggle, Gina regains consciousness and stabs the man with a syringe, killing him. They flee the apartment and jump into the taxi outside. Almost immediately, the second attacker appears and rams their vehicle. A dangerous chase follows through the city. He nearly forces them into the path of a tram before both vehicles crash. Martin and Gina escape into a crowded nightclub where Gina knows people and can hide. Shaken, she tells Martin that men like these murdered her family and that she hates being dragged back into danger. She storms away. Alone, Martin opens his father's book again and studies the numbers. This time, the pattern becomes clear. The numbers form a code that points to specific words on specific pages. When Gina returns, Martin explains what he discovered and apologizes for everything. He calls Jürgen and tells him he cracked the code. The message reveals the scientific names of 2 flowering plants. Neither of them understands the meaning yet. Jürgen asks how close Prince Shada is to Professor Bressler. He learns they are working together on agricultural research meant to fight global hunger. Jürgen forms a theory. Someone using Martin's identity may be trying to get close enough to assassinate the prince. Martin decides to follow his written schedule and confront Liz at the art exhibition. Gina warns him it is a bad idea, but Martin insists. As Martin moves through the exhibition halls, he notices the same assassin watching Liz from a distance. Martin follows Liz through the art exhibition, keeping his distance. Gina tries to warn Martin by text that the impostor is also on the move, but Martin stays focused on Liz. When Liz finally steps away from the crowd, Martin approaches her. She reacts coldly and asks why he keeps following her. Martin tells her he just wants the truth. For a moment, she holds her ground. Then her resistance breaks. Liz admits she is trapped. She says if she tries to walk away, they will kill both of them. She explains that after the crash, everything went wrong. Martin had left his briefcase at the airport. That mistake triggered everything that followed. Fragments of memory begin returning to Martin. She urges him to recover it before it is too late. She leans in, kisses him, and quietly tells him she loves him. Then she walks away, leaving Martin standing there. Gina joins Martin outside the exhibition. They head for the airport together. While Martin and Gina are on their way, Jürgen receives an envelope from his airport contact. Inside are security photos clearly showing Martin and Liz arriving in Berlin together before the accident. It is proof that Martin did exist as himself before the crash. Moments later, Jürgen receives a visit from Rodney Cole. Rodney claims he can verify Martin's identity. As soon as Rodney enters the office, Jürgen senses something is wrong. He quickly pieces it together. Rodney is not a colleague. He is a former mercenary and a member of the same group behind the identity switch. Jürgen realizes Rodney is there to interrogate and kill him. With no way out and no chance of escape, Jürgen makes a decision. He triggers a cyanide capsule hidden on his person. He collapses and dies before Rodney can reach him. At the airport, Martin goes to the lost luggage counter and asks for his briefcase. The staff asks for identification. He has none. Martin then recalls the combination lock on the case. Inside the briefcase are his passport, money, documents, and identification, all confirming the identity he believed was his. Gina warns Martin that staying at the airport is dangerous and too obvious. Martin insists he has to wait. Liz told him the briefcase was the key. Gina prepares to leave. She tells Martin that Liz may have already informed the others exactly where he would be. Before walking away, she returns the engraved Rolex watch he gave her. Then she leaves. Moments later, Rodney appears and pretends to help Martin. He attacks him and has him subdued. Outside, Gina is waiting in line for a taxi when she glances back and sees Martin being forced into a van. She reacts instantly. Gina steals a taxi and follows them. Inside the van, Martin wakes up restrained. Rodney explains the truth. The man Martin believed himself to be does not exist. Martin Harris was only a cover identity created for an assassination operation tied to the biotechnology summit. Rodney explains that Martin was a trained operative. The head injury caused him to believe the cover identity was real. When Liz reported the accident, the organization activated a replacement. The other Martin, same training, same photos, same history. Before he can kill him, Gina slams her taxi into the van, pinning one of the attackers against it. She then rams the van off a ledge. The crash kills both Rodney and the remaining assassin. Martin survives. After the crash, Martin pulls himself free and staggers away from the wreckage. Together, they get clear of the scene before authorities arrive. Martin takes Rodney's suitcase and opens it. Inside, he finds multiple passports. 2 of them are Canadian, one with his photo and one with Liz's. The site confirms what Rodney told him. None of the identities were real. As Martin looks deeper, more memories surface. He remembers being in Berlin 3 months earlier with Liz. He remembers checking into the hotel. He remembers entering a suite. He remembers planting a bomb. The target was Prince Shada. Martin tells Gina that the assassination is scheduled for tonight. He says the prince will be at the hotel for the biotechnology summit. Gina reacts angrily and tells him she should have left him in the river. But she does not walk away. Instead, she stays. They head back to the hotel. Inside, Prince Shada arrives for the event, accompanied by Professor Bressler and his daughters. Liz is already there, composed and professional, greeting guests and playing her role flawlessly. Meanwhile, Liz convinces Bressler to hand over his laptop for safekeeping. She connects a device and begins copying his files. The data contains his entire research project. Martin and Gina enter through a service area but are immediately noticed by hotel security. They are detained and questioned. Martin tries to warn them about the bomb, but security dismisses him. They have already dealt with him once and see him as a disturbed impostor. Martin insists they review surveillance footage from 3 months earlier. Reluctantly, security checks the archived footage. They see Martin and Liz entering the hotel together during the earlier visit. That changes everything. Security finally believes him. The hotel is immediately evacuated. As alarms sound and guests are rushed out, Liz and the imposter Martin move through the building. Liz suddenly stops. She tells him they no longer need the bomb. Their goal has changed. She says she cannot allow her face to be tied to a meaningless explosion. She turns back alone. Elsewhere in the hotel, Martin notices Bressler's daughters. Their names match the common names of the 2 flowering plants from his father's coded message.
Lily, Laurel.
The realization hits him. Prince Shada was never the real target. Bressler is. His genetically modified corn can survive extreme climates. If he dies and his research is stolen, billions of dollars will fall into the wrong hands. Martin breaks free from security and runs back into the building. Martin runs through the hotel, moving against the flow of people being evacuated. Security is focused on clearing guests, giving him the opening he needs. Elsewhere, Liz slips back into the suite where the bomb was planted months earlier. She kneels near the device and begins trying to disarm it. Her hands move quickly, but it becomes clear she is running out of time. The mechanism does not respond the way she expects. At the same time, the imposter Martin moves through the hotel toward Professor Bressler. With the evacuation underway, the security around him is thinning. The imposter is no longer pretending. He is there to finish the job personally. Martin reaches the area just as the imposter confronts Bressler. Fragments of Martin's old operative training begin to surface. Not memories, but instinct. He uses whatever is within reach. Liz makes one final attempt to disable the bomb. It fails. The device detonates. The explosion rips through the suite, killing her instantly and sending fire and debris into the surrounding floors. The blast shakes the building. The struggle ends when Martin kills the imposter, stopping him before he can murder Bressler. Gina reaches Martin moments later. She sees what he has done and quickly pulls the weapon from his hand before anyone else can arrive. Together, they escape the burning building. Outside, firefighters battle the flames as emergency crews surround the hotel. Bressler is escorted away safely with his daughters. With the threat eliminated and his research no longer at risk, he later makes a public announcement. He reveals that his work is complete and that the genetically modified strain of corn he developed will be released to the world for free. By doing so, he removes any financial incentive behind the attack. The name Martin Harris is left behind. With their pasts erased and new identities in place, Martin and Gina board a train together and leave Berlin. Well, that's the end of this recap. How did you like this movie? Let me know in the comments below.